Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club. Your number one stop for stellar reviews of volumes, arcs, or stories that us or yourselves choose. You can find us live every Wednesday on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, and the replay on all podcast networks. Take a seat, get yourselves and your opinions ready, as it's time to join the herd. But first, please put your hands together for your hosts, Shane, Phil, Scott, and Martin, as they kick off this week's discussion.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club, and it's a very special show today because we have our Herd's Choice, and we are going to be talking about that today, and that was chosen by my beloved, my fiancée. It is Amy. She is here.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, I am Scott, if you haven't figured out already. And next to me, I've got Shane.
Oh, hoi, hoi.
Over here, I've got Martin.
Evening all.
And across the pond, I got Phil.
Sup, nerds?
So, Amy has chosen, very conveniently, to follow on from last week's show. We read Once and Future Volume 3. This week, we are talking about Once and Future Volume 4. Monarchies in the UK, as usual, written by Kieron Gillen, art by Dan Mora, colours by Tamra Bonvillain, and letters by Ed Dukeshire. This was published, the issues were published originally in 2021, and we're covering issues 19 to 24. There we go. Going a bit slow on the chat today, but we've only got Liam in at the moment. He's saying hidey ho. Hello, Lee. Thank you for joining. I hope you read along. I hope you had a good time. And before we start, I should let you know what Volume 4 was all about. Had quite a busy week myself, so I haven't gone and written it myself, so I'm just going to read what's on the back of the book. So, Bridgette, Duncan, and Rose, along with the entirety of Britain, are dragged into the Otherworld. It's a land of predatory monsters, and things seem like they can't get any worse. But of course they can. A rival king rises to confront Arthur, plunging the land into civil war, and both pursue Bridgette, Duncan, and Rose as they travel across the land, desperately trying to find a way to return Britain to its senses. Here we go. That's what happened. We've all read it. And I hope we're all on a similar opinion, but part of me also hopes that we're not, because it's quite good when we have a bit of an argument. But Amy, as this was your pick. First of all, why did you pick this?
So I picked this just because, one, I thought it was actually going to be a joke that it would actually come up on the wheel and actually be picked. But two, I really, really, really have enjoyed all the volumes of this story so far. It's something that I find really, really interesting, just because I love the historical side of things. And like I said last week in the comments, like, I know it's not for everybody, and it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's my cup of tea, so I like it. So that's why, another reason why I picked it, basically. So yeah. Great.
All right. So what did you think of this volume, these 6 issues?
Okay, so I really enjoyed the follow-on from the last volume into this one. The fact that Arthur is now back in some sort of form, but he's now got this whole other world now in front of him, which includes another King Arthur. And he's now in a civil war, got to fight for his land again. But in the middle of that, you've got Bridgette, who I absolutely adore to pieces. I wish she was my gran at some points in this book. I was like, yes, she's an absolute legend. She herself, you start to see a bit more about her character, and her past is starting to come through a little bit more. Duncan's not really in this as much as previous volumes, but he's still linked into it, and Rose as well. I just love the story, and it's just another epic thing where you've got loads of other different stories coming in, and it's not just about Arthur. You've got giants coming in, you've got Robin Hood coming in at the end, you've got Shakespeare involved, you've got loads of different stories and characters all starting to link together, and how Bridgette knows to go to find these things that are linking to go and kick Arthur's ass. Like, how do you know what to find and where to go? It's amazing. I just really, really, really enjoyed it. And the art is just something else. That's just another story entirely. We'll do that later on. Yeah.
Well, I reckon you could keep going for the whole hour, to be honest. That was,
I could. I'll just stop it there.
We'll just listen.
Sorry.
We'll just listen.
Just stop.
Yeah, one thing I was really chuffed about with this volume is my prayers, my wishes kind of got answered from what I said last week. But I was like, I've had the once, now I want the future. It's not as far into the future as I would expect, but it's done it, you know, and I like what it's done. And it doesn't say how far in the future it is, but I think the only thing we have to judge it on is Duncan's beard is a bit bushier.
I think it's 2 months. They mentioned that it's
Oh,
mid-February.
is it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
He's
Yeah,
a bit
that
jagged
makes sense.
looking, isn't he?
Yeah.
See, you're right. They did mention it because obviously with the whole Green Knight story, that was New Year's Eve, wasn't it? And they did say
Yeah.
February. You're right. I never caught on with that, and I was thinking this whenever you said that last week. I was thinking the same after reading this. Like, it is good. It is in the future, no matter how far it is. But if it's an argument you wanted, if it's an
Come on,
argument you're
Phil.
damn well
Come
gonna
on.
get.
Ready for
Ding,
this?
ding,
Let's
ding.
go.
No, I'm joking.
You're not, though. Look at your face. You're not joking.
Like, so the last volume I had problems with, and it ended make me want to read on. This is the exact same. It had some good things, had some bad things, but it ended me wanting to read on. It's hard.
Good.
It's hard. I don't feel like I judge this volume on its own because it's not as good as the other ones, but also it's getting me wanting to get to the climax type of thing. I hope it delivers, but I don't have faith in it delivering. I don't know.
Sounds like it's
I know.
tricking you.
Yeah.
It sounds like every volume is tricking Phil at the just at the finish line. It's just hooking Phil enough to read on.
Like, I love the stuff of like the people in the home, and also they then move to the Grail Castle and they have to survive. You know, like Jack and the Giant Beanstalk and all that kind of stuff. And again, I like Bridgette and Duncan and Rose. They're really cool, but like the multiple King Arthurs, the multiple Merlins, it's starting to irk on me slightly. That I don't really know why.
I don't think it was meant to happen to have three Arthurs appear. When I was reading it, I thought it was just the two, which was the original one that we know of, and then this one, the white one that popped up. I thought it was just going to be the two of them. But when I saw the third one, I was like, oh, I don't think that's actually meant to happen. And the way that Merlin puts it across is like, oh God, there's another one kind of thing. He's, I don't think it was actually meant to happen for Merlin.
I took it as there are just so many different versions of the story. So that's why there's going to be a version for every single one, isn't there? Every slight variation on the tale.
That's literally what Liam just said, as you said it then. There are multiple versions of the stories, hence multiple versions of Arthur's and Merlin's. Totally makes sense. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you there. It was great to see so many different stories pop up in this. But I know we're supposed to have this chaotic thing going on because now the whole of Britain is in Otherworld, so we're going to get tons of different stories and things like that. But for me, it felt a bit cramped, a bit like everything was squashed in together, and it started to feel like a Monster of the Week type of thing. And I was getting a little bit. I enjoyed the character reveals at the end of the issues, but when they did it for 4 out of 6 of these issues, I was like, all right, because I was predicting the end page at this point. I was like, okay, right, now drum roll please. We've got the giant from Jack and the Beanstalk. We've got Robin Hood. Hey. But it was still cool. They looked awesome, but I don't mind that these characters appeared. I just would have liked it for them to appear a couple of pages earlier and for not to be like that, like predictable. Like for the last page, like this story is so good and has so much potential to give you something else to have a cliffhanger for. It just feels like, you know, Kieron Gillen didn't have much faith in the reader, and like the only thing that will grab them is if I give them a big monster reveal or something to, like, you know, some conflict to look forward to for the next issue and stuff like that.
I think at one point he even gave up on the English mythology when we started diving into Greek mythology.
That was my favorite.
Gorgons and I love Greek mythology, but I didn't expect that from
a male Gorgon as well.
I know, yeah. Twist on that story.
Yeah. Phil's there with his hands up in the air, doesn't have a clue what's going on. Like, no. I like that. It felt like a bit of change of pace, and it made sense for Bath as a place because it's very Roman, and it's a beautiful place anyway. But yeah, it made sense to the place, and I think it was a good change of pace as well from all this Arthurian stuff. It was a nice, like a palate cleanser, I guess. You know, you got this, okay, we have Arthurian, loads and loads of that, and now bam, we've got a bit of Greek, cool, we can get our teeth into this a bit, and then we go back to the Arthurian stuff. But we're seeing
we also get fairy tales, which I did ask Phil last week if he would prefer fairy tales, and then they popped up this volume.
Yeah.
And Phil?
Well, the whole story thing, like, we obviously got, it's the main crux of the book, essentially, is that, like, you're living in this story in the real life and in the other world or whatever. But I feel like what Scott's saying, like, it just became too much. It gets ramped up to 100 compared to the previous volumes. And it's just like, yeah, the fairy tale stuff, okay, yeah, but I was like, you're just giving me too much in one book. And yeah, it got weird. I'm not saying bad, just weird. Just more odd than the previous 3 volumes.
Like, I understand the reason for, like, overwhelming the story with all these different stories and characters and all that, but I think what we're used to from the first 3 volumes is that it's all been trickled in, and you can, if you know, I did for the last volume, I went and Googled some stuff and I looked into it, but I thought if I did that for everything in this story, it'd have taken me 2-3 times longer to read this entire book if I was going to Google all the stories around it. And it was just, it is overwhelming, but I think that's done on purpose. But considering how fast it literally went from 0 to 60 from, like, volume 3 to this, really, like, in terms of what we're including, just felt like a lot.
I think it's still done well to keep the core story with Bridgette and Duncan and Rose and even Mary. Like, again, one of my gripes of the previous one was, like, they're building her up for something. And this one, they're still building her up. Obviously, now there's 1 volume to go, so we're going to see what her story actually is and how it ends for her. But, like, you've spent, like, 4 volumes building her up to something. Give us more. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, but they've still kept that, like, the family dynamic, and they just happen to have Lancelot, like 4 Lancelots and 4 Arthurs and 4 whatever else, or whoever else is going to come in. Maybe there's dozens of them. I don't know. Maybe, but
yeah.
Also, the big battle scene surely would needed more of it. I think. I think so. Like, they were quite quick.
Yeah, for the Civil War, I was expecting carnage.
A Civil War.
But yeah, I get that point.
Yeah, that should have been going on throughout the entire 6 issues in the background. We should have kept cutting back to it as each side was losing more men.
This whole volume.
Yeah.
That could have been the chaos that we were seeing, and then we could have focused on Bridgette and Duncan and Rose. Because I've got to sound so hypocritical because I have the exact opposite of the problem I had last week, where I wanted more action. In this book, I wanted less action. There was just too much. It just felt like distraction. It was just like a little bit of story. It felt like a Marvel movie. You know, once you're getting a little bit of story, then it's like distraction with explosions, and then here's a bit more backstory to Bridgette, and then explosion, distraction. Don't pay too much attention because the story's not that strong, so we're just going to keep distracting you throughout the entire book. I feel like this is a good third act to a movie, But for a volume, I needed half of the chaos and action in the previous volume, and half of the story of that volume in this one. And together you'd have a perfect volume.
Right. Let's talk about some of the art,
again.
shall we? Yeah. Let's talk about some of the art for a bit before we actually show off our pages. One of the things I've got written down here is I really like the costume designs of like our main characters, you know,
Yeah.
Bridgette, Duncan,
Class.
Rose, and just how it went. You know, we've seen them wear their normal clothes, but now we're getting like wintry, apocalyptic style clothes, and I really like that. And even when we saw Rose's parents, when they got kitted up ready to go and help and save the world, they were all kitted up like they were going hiking and stuff like that as well. And yeah, it's just little touches like that, and they stayed, you know, and Bridget's little beanie hat and things like that, and yeah, I thought it was great. But they were like that the whole time.
I think all like the human characters in general are quite good. Like I can't think of the name, but the other older woman who was driving the bus or the truck at the front with Bridgette, like they all look really cool, to be honest. Like saying in their kind of post-apocalyptic gear or whatever, you know. But yeah, I do. We harp on about the colors. We do like the colors, but sometimes like there's a bit too much. I think sometimes there's too much in this book. I don't know why. It's like obviously all the Arthurs and the Lancelots and the Merlins are all different colors. It's like they're wearing their team's colors, so you have to differentiate between the two of them. I feel like there's a lot more color than usual.
And I think now that they're in the Otherworld, I think they could lay off the little color bubbles.
Yeah,
because that was to show us that there was magic around and they were going into the Otherworld. The whole of Britain is the Otherworld now. So just lay off of those. Felt a bit too camera glary. You know, when you're like watching a movie and they do that camera glare thing just because they can. Sometimes it just felt a bit much. But the art is flawless. We're not gonna.
Oh yeah.
No one's gonna say anything negative about the art, are they?
No. And even though I like maybe sounded negative about the character reveals at the end of most of the issues, they still looked amazing.
The designs were fantastic.
You know?
That guy on the giant lion looked amazing.
Oh yeah, that was fantastic. Absolutely brilliant.
There's no denying Dan can draw a crazy action pose for characters when he reveals them. They are just so cool. Every character, all the knights, every animal, even the fairies. They just
don't say the F word.
he just nails it every single time.
So
I feel like imagine if Dan Mora's art was like the standard for comics. Think how much improvement comic sales would be. Like.
Yeah.
100%. Did anyone else clock I'm assuming it's a Game of Thrones Easter egg when it came to Lancelot, when he was like prepping his sword and the whole horde of skeleton monsters were coming at him. So like Jon Snow, remember when he was like, he's on his own. And he's ready and the scene just cuts at that point. I don't know if that's a Game of Thrones, they'll call a homage to that. But that's what it made me think of. And Phil agrees, so it must be something else.
Yeah, because I had it written down. I was going to bring it up as well. Because that was a brilliant scene in Game of Thrones, and it was just echoed here. In the same kind of like he's willing to take on this whole army on his own.
And he does.
Yeah.
Because he's Lancelot and he can. Should we look at our pages?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Amy has the guest of honor, and we'll start with you. Amy does also have a bonus page, but we'll show your page first, and we'll go around, and then we'll show your bonus page.
Okay.
Cool. So here we go.
This page, I love this page. So this is what I picture Arthur to be like when I hear the name King Arthur. I don't envisage an Arthur that's like looking like a half zombie or in a white St. George's costume. Like that is Arthur to me in his knight costume, like raring to go for battle. The colours are in it are absolutely amazing. How it all blends together. You can see like it's like desk coming up behind him. And then you've got Merlin down at the bottom there, who's like, oh my God, I forgot there was another one to deal with at the end. Like it was just one of those, oh shit, there's another one, okay, just to deal with. But it was just how they linked the two together, I thought was really, really good. Yeah, that's my favourite picture.
This is definitely the best looking version of Arthur and Merlin of all of them.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that we only got to see it at the end as well.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're going to see it more in the next. Hopefully.
Like,
There's got to be a couple more as well, sure.
If one of them has to win, I hope it's that one. Just in how good they look. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, we want Duncan and Bridgette to win.
I don't want this to end happily. I don't think it will. I have a feeling it won't end as one would.
Well, I mean, it has to end satisfactory, and Mary will have to save her mother. That's her character arc. Is obviously going to be to save her mother in some way. But her mother's going to die in her arms and apologize. Obviously, that's how it's got to end, hasn't it? So that everyone ends, everyone's character arc goes like that, and that's how it's been going so far. So unless he screws up at the final hurdle, he's going to finish it well.
He might.
And also, if Volume 5 doesn't end with "and they lived happily ever after," I don't know, like, you know, it's got to be.
Well, yeah, and then it will be that you'll see it written down in a book, and then Bridgette will close the book and put it on a shelf, and then she'll look outside, and the world's just gone. There's no world left. There's just stories outside.
All right, we'll go over to Martin next then.
Oh, yes.
I've been waiting for Robin Hood the whole time in this book. I'm just finally glad we get to see him. I love.
Did you know he was
the character
coming?
Robin Hood. I knew that he had to be in this some way, shape, or form, just for that era. You know, I was hoping that he was going to be in it. And as soon as we went into the woods and they started talking about someone in the woods, I was like, oh, it's Robin Hood. It's got to be Robin Hood. And there he is. I love the design. It just, I love the character. I've always been a fan of Robin Hood ever since I was a kid. Grew up on the Disney movie with the fox. I love Robin Hood. So to finally see him in this, I'm looking forward to going to the next one, because this alone wants me to read more, because I want more Robin Hood. So I couldn't not pick him.
When she went to the woods with the quill and the feather, and she said, "Oh, it belongs to an arrow," I was like, "Oh, is it Robin Hood or William Tell?" I was like, "It's got to be one of them." And Robin it wasn't until she said about him being Mary, and I was like, "Oh, it's Robin Hood." Okay.
It's Robin Hood. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in two minds though. I was like, "Well, it could be either or." If she wanted an archer.
I just want to know more about the mystical stuff, because he looked like he was traveling through the woods in like a green mist. So. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that twist on the character, because that's something I've not seen before. So
is he from the same writer as the writer of the third Arthur that we saw? Because neither of them have faces.
Maybe. Don't know. We don't know which one he is. There could be another 500 of them for we don't know. We don't know.
Imagine.
That's the good thing about it. You could have any version you want.
Wow. Sorry, I just had to realize. I just realized then. We could have a ton of different authors.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Okay, Phil.
Good one.
Multiple reasons. I actually wanted to pick the Robin Hood page. And then I was going to pick that page where Lancelot was fighting the army, because it was the Jon Snow homage. Then I thought, it's pink, it's purple, and it's raining. Like I didn't pick this. Like, there's something wrong. As Scott had mentioned earlier in the show, that there was a lot of these kind of big reveals, and even though you kind of expected them, they still look cool, all of them.
Oh yeah,
and this looks great. And like that face is quite scary too. Like, imagine seeing that in real life.
He looks like lava as well, doesn't he, with the red veins? But all three of the pages picked so far have those coloured balls, the coloured.
Yeah, they do.
Them. It is a bit much throughout the book. I know it's the colorist style, but it can be a bit much.
I got a bit blinded to it, to be fair. Like halfway through, but not even halfway through, one issue in, I just didn't notice them.
I started noticing more and more. It's like they were just taking over my vision. Like it was like one of those magic eye paintings, and all I was seeing was round dots.
All right. Okay. Mine next then. So we've had a character reveal from Martin. We've had a character reveal from Phil. Can we guess what mine's going to be?
Character
Review.
Character reveal. Here we go. So this is the Medusa Gorgon type thing.
Morgan.
Morgan. Yeah, this is Morgan.
Morgan the Gorgon.
He lives in Bath. He works in a a little brewery, little indie brew. But I absolutely love this. Being a massive fan of Greek mythology anyway, and finally, like, despite me enjoying this book, and finally having that thing that I'm like, yes, I love this type of stuff. I cannot wait to see where this goes. I was really pleased with it. It's a bit of a spin on having it as a male, but I enjoyed it. I didn't have a problem with it, and the way they justified it being male, I was fine with that as well. And how they dealt with it was really good. But yeah, seeing that character reveal, I couldn't wait to turn to the next issue and just carry on with that. It was so good.
Yeah, the turning effect as well of her
Yeah.
face still showing a bit is fantastic.
Yeah.
The terror on her face, yeah.
Still got the bubbles there though.
Still got the bubbles.
What bubbles?
Still
I
got
don't.
the bubbles.
I don't see any. But yeah, that was great. And then, last but not least, we have Shane.
I did not pick a character reveal. I picked a Duncan
Oh.
page because I love Duncan. You know how much I love Duncan. And he gets to punch fairies in the face with a horseshoe. Come on now. That's
pretty cool.
awesome. When Gran hands him the horseshoe and he just like leans out the car window and just uppercuts a fairy. Yeah. Come on. That's awesome.
When you say it that way, I can just imagine how Kieron would have scripted that for Dan Mora to kind of draw that. Yeah, imagine Duncan hanging out of a car window, uppercutting a fairy. Yeah, blood everywhere. Amazing.
It's
With a
awesome.
When I
And
first
obviously
looked
the
at this
colours
page,
are great.
sorry,
Yeah.
when I first looked at this page, the first thing I thought of was finally Kev's kicking ass again.
Yes, Kev.
we do need to rename Duncan to Kev. Like we
Yeah.
need to. It's like spit an image.
Make a petition. We'll do it. So
Just glad Duncan got something to do as well.
yeah, definitely. He did. He was a very side character, wasn't he? Before we go into Amy's bonus page, last week I said I was going to flex. Okay, I didn't have chance to flex because I just showed off my hardcover. I wanted to show some more things, so I'm going to do it really quick now. It'll be literally a minute, right? So, number one, signed bookplate by Kieron Gillen, right, of King Arthur from Forbidden Planet. Then we have the Forbidden Planet cover of Volume 1, signed to Amy, right, from Kieron Gillen to Amy. It says thank you, right? There we go. And then
You can't
I
flex
have-
someone else's signature.
Yeah.
Amy should be flexing that.
I'll give it to him. It's fine. He did it for me, so it's fair enough.
And then I have the final prints of issue 1, 2, 3, and 4. They are an amazing set to have together. And I have all of them signed as well. There's one. There's two. Look at that. In gold as well.
I know. Stands out, doesn't it?
3 and 4. All amazing. There we go. There's my flex. We can move on now. So
Nice.
we'll go into Amy's bonus page. Amy said she wanted to pick this page for comedic value, and you'll see why.
Yeah.
Here it is.
I'm like, it's there.
So for everyone listening on the podcast, if you've read along with the book as well, this is where Merlin flies up in the sky to tell one of the King Arthurs, and I quote, "The Frenchie shagged your wife, you big ninny." So that was like, he was quoting what Bridgette had said.
It's purely comedic value for this page, because as soon as I read it, I was like, oh, hilarious. I was actually crying laughing just reading it because I just didn't expect something like that to pop up in the book. I was just like, oh, there it is. Okay.
I
Yeah.
actually have a question about that scene.
Go on then.
Did Bridgette use Shakespeare's quill to write that into the story as a distraction?
We don't know.
Because I thought that's why she
She
she said they
wrote-
needed a distraction because they need to wait until.
Yeah, she
A certain
wrote something,
time.
so she must have written that in to then
that's why
be the distraction.
Yeah, that because he's speaking in her voice, isn't he? He's not.
It's
speaking in
100%
Merlin's.
Bridgette. You can literally hear Bridgette do it.
Yeah. So that's what I assumed happened.
Phil's got a light bulb moment.
She's got Shakespeare's pen, and she's like, "Let's change the story just a little bit."
Yeah.
See, I didn't think of that, but now you've. What I did think of was like she has this pen, so they make a big deal about this. What's it called? It's not a pen.
Quill.
It's called quill, right? So made this big deal about this quill. So I thought she's just gonna write the story like to the end, like Arthur drops dead of a heart attack or something. Do you know what I mean? Like just rewrite the story and win the day. Do you know
wasn't the quill only used to find Robin Hood?
No, that was the second part of the plan. The first part was the distraction, and then she had to go to find someone.
Which is
so she definitely she definitely writes something with it, and then he starts speaking just like her. It's like she must.
Merlin would never say that. He would never, ever say something like that.
I don't know. I hope it gets cleared up eventually, but that's one of those maybe moments, isn't it?
Maybe it's up for interpretation.
Wait, where is it? Oh, it's too late now.
But I agree with Shane. I agree with that, though, Shane. I do agree with it. It's got to be the distraction.
Yeah.
And just the way that it's written.
Yeah. Otherwise, he would have just spoken in Old English tongue to say that, wouldn't he? But to say that was very much Gran.
Good old Bridge.
Well, he even said before that happened, he said, "Oh, what did the old hag say, or whatever it was?" Like,
well, old hag is what they would have used that terminology back then as like to refer to somebody, but then the rest of that sentence was definitely not his.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just thought it was a callback to Volume 3, something like that. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on to the writing. I'll go for Martin. What did you think, mate? What did you?
Dan on the spot.
Sorry.
I liked the way. I know we covered it before, but I liked the way that we did have different stories. There were some stories I cared less for than others. I didn't really care about the Jack and the Beanstalk story. I didn't really wasn't interested in that. If I'm being honest, I felt like that was a bit of a waste of time. That's me personally. Obviously, I love the reveal. But other than that, I did like the way the characters were written. I loved the way that the alternative characters were written as well, because I felt like we were getting different characters, not just carbon copies of what we've already had before. But overall, I can't complain. I wasn't lost in the story, considering how jam-packed it was. Did anyone else feel the same?
Yeah, the Jack and the Beanstalk stuff is just filler. 100% just filler.
But it was cool though, like to consider the fact that this character was brought up in Volume 2. So there was a lot of foresight in that, writing that in.
I also like the fact that the other people are affected in this other world of the whole of Britain. Like, you're not just seeing what's happening with Duncan and even reference like France and Ireland and stuff. Like, so you're seeing a small snippet of how it is for other people in this world, type of thing.
Yeah.
But they now know how to combat it. Like, they know how to utilize the stories to win the day, essentially. And then obviously through Bridgette's instructions.
Yeah.
What I think about this book overall, to be fair, is that it makes me worried about the end. Like, it is quite jam-packed, this volume, but there's still so much things outstanding. Obviously, all the Arthurs, they have Robin Hood, the Merlins, Nemoir, Mary. What was her other name? Something else. Elaine. Was it Elaine? Was it? No, come on.
Yeah.
Her other name. She had another name, didn't she? And you have Duncan and Rose, who are obviously in love, or like, you don't see this in this volume. That it's going to end up nice for them too.
Oh, they held hands.
Yeah, but they did.
Oh, come on!
In a Disney movie, they'd be married by now.
Yeah, there's just so many things that need, like, its end, you know, albeit good or bad, going into this last volume. And sometimes when you have so many things still to do to wrap up, it makes me worry about it. But maybe I'm just being pessimistic and not really taking in the story as it is now.
No, it makes sense. There's only 6 issues, and they've got to close every single thread So you've got the Arthur thread, you've got the Mary thread, you've got the Rose and the Green Knight thread. All these things have to be closed up in 6 issues. So yeah, I completely understand.
It's a bit too much to streamline in 6 issues. I'm hoping they focus on the important stuff and maybe pick a few of the side stories. If they miss certain bits, I'm not going to be too worried, but just a lot to streamline for these final 6.
Yeah, but even the people at the home, like, I feel like they need some closure too. Like, part of me hopes it does end nice, and Bridget goes back to watching British Bake Off. Do you know what I mean? Like, just to go 360 and just go back to watching the Great British Bake Off, and that's it. But I don't think it will.
No, that's
one aspect of this story that has surprised me in terms of how like invested I am into it is Galahad and his like relationship with Lancelot and being like, you know, and his kind of like silent like turning over to the other side, and he was like, I will help the good Arthur because my real dad is there. And he's like, Dad, it's me. Look, do you love me? And he's like, no, go away. And then you get, you know, and the real Galahad comes. He's like, this is my son. And then they hunt him, and I felt absolutely like I was gutted for him, and I felt so sad just seeing that one panel of him like in the watery ditch there. Broke my heart. I didn't think I could feel like that for a character that looks like that.
But you got to think, Galahad, that version of Galahad, that was a human being, and he was changed throughout from the beginning into this creature that was just not him. And when Nimue saw him, she knew exactly who that was, but he didn't know that Nimue was his mother. So that whole connection there, that's heartbreaking in itself. The fact that he now doesn't know who his mother is, believing that Lancelot that he has seen is his father, to be completely rejected. He's on his own, bless him. He's got no family now, technically. And to be so rejected in a ditch by the other Galahad, you know, it's like, oh, it's just terrible.
So I liken this Galahad arc to, we've obviously mentioned Game of Thrones a couple of times tonight, similar to what was his real name? Reek. Remember Reek in Game of Thrones?
Oh yeah.
What was his name? Theon Greyjoy. So like, it was basically he was being broken down to something completely that was not himself. Obviously, he redeemed himself later on. So there's something similar in that respect. I do expect him to have some sort of a redeeming arc. Probably will die, I think. But then Mary will be like, oh, I have another son anyway. Duncan's my son. I'll just replace him because the family is cool. The whole thing's cool, isn't it? Overall.
Yeah.
So I think he will see his end, but he'll have something again to redeem himself.
Quite a few characters have to redeem themselves in the next volume. Mary has to. Yeah. She has to. That has to be where her character's building to. Otherwise, what is the point of her? If she's just there to have children so they can be parts of the story, that's not a character arc. She's got to, at the very least, save her mother in some way from something. She doesn't have to sacrifice herself to save her mother, but she does have to even even if she's throwing a rope down a ditch, it has to be something to show that she's had some growth over these 30 issues.
Yeah.
I am liking that we're seeing snippets of the relationship in this book as well. You know, specifically the sniper scene, where it's all done through the lens. But yeah, we have a bit of a chat between them, and yeah, we are slightly getting further on with it. You know, Bridgette managed to convince her, look, don't kill me, just take what we haven't took. We need these things. You have everything else. I don't care. I just need this. And
she's just so calm under pressure.
I know.
Just standing there with a sniper's scope on your head, and she's just like lighting a cigarette and reaching in her pocket and just having a chat.
Pure legend.
She just doesn't care. I think at this point she's just like, well, if she pulls the trigger, it's someone else's problem. I don't have to deal with this crap anymore.
Yeah. So, we need a Bridgette spin-off. We do.
100%.
Yes. It would be amazing.
I think
Young
Shane
Bridgette.
last week, a young Bridgette, yeah, back in the day.
Yeah.
See that sniper scene? It was really good, like the kind of dialogue they had. But I found it weird in that. So she's in the scope, so she's also a fair distance away. But they were like talking to each other. So it was like Marvel superheroes all had earpieces in. Like how, like do you know what I mean? How were they speaking to each other?
It's like the Fast and Furious guys when they're driving. They can just hear each other. It's fine.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But like, it's a small detail that they don't think about, that you don't need to think about. But when you notice it, it's like, how are they doing this? And it plays in your mind a little bit. It irks you. But as I was just thinking there actually about all the stuff they need to wrap up for the last volume, and see the whole Green Knight. Is it how to pronounce it? Gawain?
Gawain.
Like, almost don't want to see that ended. I think again, if you're gonna have an ending, like an end page of the book, you just have the three of them sitting in a pub on New Year's Eve, and then just like throw the table up, holding weapons, and then end. Do you know what I mean? You don't need to see that wrap up. Just give us that even. Like, you need to wrap up everything, I suppose. Just kind of wee hints and stuff.
No, I know how that real story ends. The thing with the Green Knight, and I want
the stories can
be
slightly different.
I know. I want to see it.
But see, I kind of wish that the Green Knight thing happened, like maybe in the first issue, so that we forget about it. Like we, as a reader, would kind of forget about that, and then it turns back up. I want the characters to kind of forget about it as well.
But then she's a knight, isn't she? So she was. They knew she's about, and they could like sense her in the other world. So had it ended, the Green Knight story, she wouldn't be a knight any longer, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
If that story ends, I'm
assuming the Green Knight comes back and chops her head off. Or something like that, anyway.
What a way to end the book.
Yeah.
And then scene done.
Poor Rose.
But your Bridgette needs a special quill to rewrite the story.
Yeah. That would be a great way to end the book, with Bridgette just becoming an author, which is something she just doesn't want to do it because it's too much power for one person, because you literally have the ability to create stories, but she has no choice.
Yeah.
That would be sad, because she'd have to be alone with all that power, rewriting stories all day to make sure they don't come into the real world.
But an interesting turn.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I quite enjoyed the fact that all of these knights and stuff were trying to get Duncan and Rose over to the round table. One character we haven't talked about yet is the one riding that giant lion, the fire-breathing giant lion. And I'm surprised none of us picked it as a page, to be honest. Like, visually stunning, and it was just such a cool concept.
Yeah. What was his name?
What, the lion or the
knight? Eli or something, or Elioid, or I don't know.
Elioid.
I'm assuming for folks who know like the history and the stories of Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table, like do you recognize these names? Like,
that one's not a Knight of the Round Table. That's the guy that takes the thorn out of the lion's foot.
Oh,
yeah, that's another story.
Completely different story.
Yeah,
that's what confused me now.
That's the thing. Like the whole concept. I think Kieron Gillen is relying on his audience, his readership, to like have an understanding at least of some of this stuff. And if you're like me, where you didn't really, pay attention in school, you were too busy being a riot and whatever else, some of these things went over my head. But
he's picked very, very popular things that are in pop culture, I think.
You would have viewed them.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Knights of the Round Table.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, who's just the Lion and the Thorn?
Medusa.
Yeah, the Lion and the Thorn.
The Lion
over
and
my
Thorn.
head.
Fair enough. And the other thing that went over my head was Lear.
Yeah, King Lear.
Yeah, King Lear. That would move your head.
Yeah,
I've heard of the name, but I
King
can't think of
Lear.
the story myself. I know it refers to something. Like, I don't actually know what it is.
Shakespeare, King Lear,
Yeah, honestly, not.
He trapped him in a story. Like, he actually rewrote a god into just a man with his words. That's how powerful William Shakespeare was.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Was it called The
actually-
Storm and Tempest or something like that? Was
The Tempest.
is that what? Yeah, right. Okay, fair enough. Because that's what he says. He shouts it, doesn't he, in the book? And says Storm
Yeah.
and Tempest. So I was like, oh, maybe that's the name of the story. But it's just called Tempest, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It sounds more interesting when you say it, but at the time I just thought he was an angry puddle. You know, I was like, I'm tired. I mean, who upset this puddle of
Oh
water?
dear.
See,
See, this is what I mean. It's like, this is what I was saying last week when you guys were on the show. It's like, you've got, like, for me, because I know a lot about what's in this book, like, reference-wise, so I understand what's going on. And a lot of people, like you say, Phil, won't. So, and it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but it's nice to have everybody's opinions on it as well at the same time. So, you know, you either get it or you don't, and that's just the way it goes.
Well, I did appreciate Boris getting killed in the last volume, so
Yeah,
that was
I
quite
think
good.
a lot of
And,
people
you know,
probably would appreciate that.
I'm
yeah.
cultured enough to know that.
And he mentioned at the start of this book how much he enjoyed killing him. He wanted to do it again.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Funny.
That was brilliant.
Yeah, I think there's just two speech bubbles in this entire book that I would just erase because they just made my eyes roll into the back of my head. And it was just the racism stuff just shoehorned in this book. Just, they weren't needed, just put in there for no reason other than to just be a book written in 2022. So apart from that, I really enjoyed the writing. It was just those very two minor things that just made me go, ugh. It's a book about fucking magical creatures. It doesn't need to have this, you know? But
That's
apart
it.
from that.
Fair enough. Connie's just turned up. Hey, Con. Thanks for joining.
Connie's got a new catchphrase now because Phil stole hers.
Hi, pals.
Oh.
Come on next week. Hey, pal.
If anyone doesn't have anything to touch on at the moment, I've taken the liberty of taking some covers from the back of Volume 4.
Yes, please.
We did this a few weeks ago with Deadly Class. I thought it'd be cool to do again because these covers are brilliant.
Yes.
I've got 5 different ones, so let's have a quick look. So for everyone listening on the podcast, sorry, you're gonna have to, if you want to see these, come on over to the YouTube channel to have a look. So this first one, this is by Christian Ward. That's King Arthur.
That's nice.
That was very
That, you know,
cool.
that gives me Disney's Black Cauldron, the Thorn King vibes.
Right.
And when I was a little girl, that film creeped me the hell out. And that is literally is like the same thing for me. It's like, oh, creepy. Don't like it. Next.
Next, okay, all right. Amy has decided. This one is from Dan Mora. This is Rose riding the dragon that she met in Volume 3.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very
Class.
cool. Very like with a bow and arrow. Very Lara Croft.
Yes.
From like the newer. If Lara
Yeah, I
Croft
see that.
could ride a dragon, that would be it.
If you really think about her arc, she went from being Duncan's date to being like the person in charge of the magic to now being like a combatant. Do you know what I mean? With the bow and arrow, which is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. If you just single out what's happened to her, yeah, it's quite bizarre, isn't it? Yeah, it's really good. Next one from John Boy Mayers. Look at that one.
Again,
King
Black
Arthur.
Cauldron vibes. Ugh. It's so creepy, but it's so good at the same time. The detail in his cloak and the blood on the sword, and it's just like, oh yeah. Oh,
It's the
creepy
lightning
one,
that makes it
absolutely.
pop.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
For me, it's the outline, the little green outline around the whole thing, and then the lightning around the sword.
Class.
Very Skeletor-esque.
What's he
Like he's
holding?
holding
in
his
his
Yeah.
hand?
He's got
holding
the
some
2
heads.
King Arthur's heads. Yeah, the other 2 King Arthurs.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Spoiler.
Gone.
Next one is Bridgette being a badass riding a motorbike, killing all the fairies. Another
Absolute
cover
Absolute
by,
Bridgette.
legend.
yeah, another one by Dan Mora there.
That
Looks
didn't happen in the
amazing.
book. That's false advertising. She was in a car.
I wish it
Yeah.
did happen though. Look how good it is.
I
It's
know.
like Ghost Rider. It's class.
Yeah,
Yeah,
massive
taking out
Ghost Rider
fairies.
vibes. Yeah,
So
Please
again,
tell me you've also got my favourite cover there, Scott.
I don't
is
know.
it
I've
same
got
as
one
me?
more. Got one more. Let's see if it is or not.
yeah, this is
Oh.
mine.
This
Look
is
at that.
Lancelot looking terrifying. Another cover by Dan Mora.
I can't. Now I look at this character more. I felt like in this particular volume. He gives me Spawn vibes. I think this is why I must have gravitated to him last time. He just reminds me of Spawn.
If Spawn was a Power Ranger.
Yes.
My favorite cover was Duncan holding Excalibur facing off against King Arthur by Dan Mora.
Oh, that was a good one. I like that one.
They're all good. I just picked 5 random ones, but they were all amazing.
It's so good.
Connie's asking, is Once and Future done? We are not done with it, but Once and Future is done. It's 30 issues in total. It's done.
Sad times.
One more volume to go.
One more volume to go. And she also says that the dragon cover is cool. The dragon cover is cool. Very cool. But there we go. Anything else anyone wants to say? If not, we'll wrap up.
No.
I want to ask, how do now we're at this point, and I'm supposed Amy can't because she's already read on. How do you want this to end? Realistically, what do you want to happen?
Personally, I want everything else to end emotionally.
You're a very emotional guy, Scott. You like your emotions.
I do. Man loves a cry,
Yeah, you do. You love a cry.
I feel like I want Arthur to win one of them and just rule again and just I don't know. I just want a bit of chaos and mayhem, but I still want the nice stuff. I still want them watching the big off, and I think Bridgette will die. That's inevitable.
Unfortunately, I think that as well. Unless Duncan can get a hold of that quill and rewrite her story, I want him to maybe rewrite her entire story so that she's never a monster hunter, and it just goes back and she's got her kid, and her kid has 2 kids, and they're just a happy family, and they don't know about monsters and stories. Yeah, Bridgette is the grandmother.
She's got her husband back.
Everyone's just happy. Yeah. That's what I want. And I want Duncan to be the only one that knows that he did it.
I just don't know what I want anymore. I think after reading this volume with the amount of layers that they've added onto this story, I just don't know. I still feel like I did last week. I wanted to read this as 2 volumes together. I still feel that way because I just feel like I've got to go straight into the next one now.
I know. I really want to. Just adding on to Shane's thing there, his idea, rewrites everyone back, into a normal life. He still knows what's happened, and then I would love it for just him in the night. He just goes into the night with a sword, and you just see a couple of the coloured circles, and off he goes.
He
and then that'll be the
end.
With
everything to keep everyone safe. Yeah, I want Duncan to be the hero of this story. That's what I want.
He's been set up for it. These last 2 volumes, he's sort of trickled away a little bit.
Oh, I'm gonna have to read it. I don't think I can wait to do it on the show.
No.
Okay, let's get our thoughts and scores in then. Everyone who's watching, do get your scores in. We'll chuck them all together, and we'll give it a big old average. And we'll see where this goes on the top 10 leaderboard.
Amy wants it back in the top 10.
So
I do want it back in the top 10.
So currently, because of last week, it is back in the top 10.
Oh yes.
So it's as a series, it's at a 7.2. So will it stay? Will it go up? Will it go down? Who knows? There's a lot riding on this, and it seems like we're all fans of this series. But how much are we really fans of this series? So let's find out. Okay. Amy, we'll start off with you if you don't mind.
Okay. So I just adore this series as a whole and as a volume. This for me was ideal for me for the amount of stories that were in there. We had new characters coming in. Bridgette's character, again, outstanding. Colour, amazing. It's amazing. Literally, I could literally just go on and on and on. The story itself, for me, because it's so chaotic, I'm in my brain a very chaotic person. So I can follow on with what's going on quickly and keep up with it. But again, I would, like Martin said, I would have preferred to read them like as a 2 instead of just this as on its own. The story's amazing. The writing is amazing. That page for the comedy value, I just thought was a genius to turn the story a little bit for the distraction. I just can't wait to see what's going to happen in the next one. Not that I've read it or anything. So I'm going to give this one as the volume 4. For me personally, this is a 9 out of 10.
9. Wow, big score.
Yeah, for me.
Big score. Right. We'll see if that score is enough to keep it all afloat. Okay, Martin, we'll go to you next.
I'm not far off where I was last week. As much as I did enjoy this a little bit more than last week, because I did enjoy the extra characters, and obviously I love Robin Hood coming in. The writing was enjoyable. The Greek mythology thing threw me a little bit, but I did enjoy it.
Take that back.
I did enjoy that. Artwork was phenomenal all the way through. Let's just keep that short and sweet. I'm not going far from where I was last week, though. I'm going to go up a little bit, so I'm going to have to give it a 7.5. I want more out of this. I want more, so I'm giving it room to get a better score. So let's just see what happens.
All right. Okay. Philip.
Whereas Martin went up from last week, I'm going down. The main factor for me, it's not that I didn't like it or didn't enjoy it, but the main factor for me is that last volume left you wanting or expecting something, and it didn't deliver. This, I feel like we're still at the same point almost that we were in the story. You know what I mean? So all this extra stuff, even though it was cool to see, it was quite unnecessary. Obviously, you've introduced all the Arthurs and things like that. I get that. But I feel like we're no further along in the character arcs that we're hoping to get. Do you ever see? Have you all watched the Harry Potter movies?
Yes.
What are they?
Yeah. Do you remember like the last book they cut into 2 movies, and the one before, Deathly Hallows Part 1, was a born drab, and it was completely unnecessary, and it was awful. I feel like that's how this book is a little bit. Like it didn't really forward us on slightly. So this is a Deathly Hallows Part 1. Yeah,
it's okay. It's fine.
But I still liked it. This is my expectations, and I do think Kieron Gillen is an intelligent fella, and I feel sometimes when he puts stuff in the story that I don't know, it makes me feel a little bit dumb. And I am dumb. I just don't like to be told I'm dumb. I hurt my feelings. So I'm sorry, Amy. I'm glad you're over in Wales and I'm over here, and you can't physically hurt me. I'm going 6.5. Yeah, it was 7 last week, so I'm going 6.5. Sorry.
Oh,
big blow. Big blow.
Oh,
all right. Shane.
I do have to agree with Phil a little bit on the fact that this does end in the same spot it begins. They're no further along. All they've done is got Robin Hood to help them. So I do agree that this doesn't move the story along. And then you have the Jack and the Beanstalk thing, which was just filler. It didn't need to be in there. It doesn't add anything to the story. It doesn't need to be there once they moved them to the castle. We didn't need to see them again until Mary showed up. That was completely irrelevant. But I do enjoy this world and this story and these characters. And again, I want more Duncan, but I'm always going to want more Duncan. That's just the thing. I'm always going to want more Duncan, please. But I really enjoyed it. The art's flawless. Everything. It's a great story. I am looking forward to the final one. I'm also dreading it because I think my expectations for it are up here. And if it stays on this level, I may be a bit disappointed. So I do hope it's better. But I'm going to give it the same score I gave it last week, 7.5.
5. Okay, cool. Right. A little bit more time for anyone to get a score in. I'll do mine.
Sorry, just read Connie's comment.
I know, his class.
Connie is saying, I'm still convinced Phil plays this like Come Dine With Me.
That was last season I done that.
If you're from the US and you're watching us, don't know what Come Dine With Me is, just go and find a few episodes on YouTube or something. It's an amazing, typically British show. And once you see
got their version out there.
yeah,
100%.
you'll definitely know what Connie's talking about and how Phil scores his books. So, right. Wonder Future Volume 4 was still on it's on the same kind of level as the rest of the thing. It's going up and down a little bit. It's got ebbs and flows, and this is a bit of an ebb. So last week was brilliant for me. We had a lot of development, a lot of relationships, and everything was great. You know, there wasn't a lot of action, which was fine for me personally. But yeah, this week was just so mental and just full. I was getting a little bit bored of the you know, who's that Pokemon at the end, you know, just like the reveal of, you know, a character. It just became predictable. Even though I liked how they looked and how it was going, just didn't enjoy that at the very end. Art, yeah, like everyone says, amazing. No need to harp on that. This is all about the writing. Yeah, it just felt a bit mental, a bit chaotic. I was really glad for the Greek stuff to come in. But yeah, now that we've had the discussion, it does seem like they just went in a big circle. They ended in the same place. But I am looking forward to seeing where it goes next. I certainly said next week then, I wish. I am really looking forward to seeing where it goes. And everyone has their hopes for any sort of story ending, you know, how they would like it to end. And I just hope it ends how I want it to end. But we'll see if we ever get to reading it on here. My score is going down a bit from last week as well. I gave it an 8.5 last week. It's an 8 from me. So the scores are in. Okay. We have had... Oh, wait there. Okay, now the scores are in more. We've had some scores in the chat. So Amy, you gave it a 9. We had Triple G. He said, "Love this series, although I do get confused in later volumes, but it's a strong 8 from me." Awesome, thank you, Pete. And Liam gave it a score as well. He says, "For me, this series is so consistently good that it's another 8 from me. This was a world-building volume, setting up things to come in volume 5. Cannot wait to read it."
Yes,
Awesome.
Liam. Correct.
Brilliant. So we got 1 9 and 2 8s for the herd, which gives it an average of 8.3. Adding that 8.3 onto Phil's 6.5, Shane's 7.5, Martin's 7.5, and my 8, that gives us 7.6. Okay, so that's just for volume 4. Okay, we haven't done the sequels leaderboard yet, but let's see.
Come on, quick.
Here's the top 10 leaderboard for our normal books. It hasn't made the top 10. We still need an 8 or higher to get onto the top 10. But on the rest of the leaderboard, it has matched Once and Future Volume 3 with another 7.6. Okay, so we're pretty consistent. Okay, so sequel leaderboard time. Okay, I've done the maths, quick maths. Okay, just to reiterate, if you weren't here last week, Volume 1, 6.6. Volume 2, 7.3. Volume 3, 7.6. Okay, this now gives us a grand total with our 7.6 for this week as well, 7.3. So it has beat its score. It has beat its score from last week. So let's see our sequels leaderboard. It now bumps up. It goes ahead of Monstrous and is now joint 6th with Something Is Killing the Children, issues 1 to 10. 7.3.
I did it!
Yes! It would be higher if Phil hadn't scored volume 1 so low.
Yeah, it's true.
I feel like you guys didn't do volume 1 justice when you read that the first time round.
It wasn't us.
It was him.
Can I just say, you know, people like to think I fluff my scores. I've been consistent with my score through each volume of this series. I'm still 50-50 if I actually like this. I think I like it. I think I don't. So that's where I am at with it.
Right. Okay. All right.
It's like Marmite. You either like it or you don't. You know. Yeah.
I'm still making my mind up. I'm got one volume to go. Is going to make or break it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if we ever do volume 5 on the show again. We should, because it'll be a full run, and we'll do it. That'll be our 3rd full run done.
We will.
But before we go, it is time to find out what we got coming up next week. I will show everyone the video and then I'll go into the channel. So, Philip, it's your pick next week. Here we go.
It is indeed.
Okay, Phil, tell everyone what you got coming up next week.
We're back to some good indie picks and a book that may one day find itself on the sequels leaderboard because we're starting a new volume 1. It's Farmhand. And yeah, this is by the creator, is it Rob Gilroy, who done Chew?
Oh,
So,
cool. I thought I recognized the art as well.
I look familiar.
The artist from Chew is the writer and the artist on this.
Cool,
So yeah,
okay.
volume 1 next week.
Awesome. There we go. Farmhand Volume 1. Was it Reap the Seeds You Sow or something like that? That's what it's called.
Reap what was sown.
Reap what was sown. Awesome. Can't wait for that. Tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, Kevin is coming away from drawing some characters. Instead, he's going to be teaching us how to draw in particular techniques when it comes to comics and other things like that. So tomorrow, he'll be showing us how to draw in perspective, brackets, simply explained.
Cool.
There we go. I was talking to him earlier. He says it's quite a difficult subject to explain, so he's done his very best to explain it simply so anyone can draw in perspective easily, just like Kev.
He's so good. Fair play to him.
He is amazing. But that's it. Amy, thank you so much for picking this book
having me back.
and for joining. Yeah, this is your second time back, isn't it?
I know.
But it's been amazing to have you on. Thank you for picking this book. And we've only got one more thing left to do now. Get your waves up.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Love you.